This is a CBC News special report.
Hello, I'm Nicole Carson for Channel 6 CBC News, and welcome to a new series called Dialogue Today. This series will interview individuals from different walks of life and gain specific perspectives on current events. Today's topic is government control, martial law, and protests. Our guest has first-hand experience with protests, as he was one of the men responsible for the infamous FLQ crisis in 1970. He and his conspirators kidnapped British diplomat James Cross, while other members of the FLQ murdered Cabinet Minister Pierre Laporte. Let's ask him about some topics relevant to today's society. Hello, Mr. Lentot, and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's get started. In recent times, we've seen protests across North America, such as March for Our Lives movement or the 2012 students' protest in Quebec. These are events that show more discontent in the population. To what extent do you believe people should be able to protest, knowing the possible consequences?
I believe that what we did was needed to start a conversation. Civilians should always fight for their rights and be able to do everything in their power to make the government listen. In 1970, it was all about sovereignty, and today, people may fight for other causes, but the essence is still the same. After our displays, the provincial government did administer a referendum vote in 1980 and 1995, issues that may not have been brought up if it hadn't been for our actions.
Surely, you are not advocating for people to kidnap and murder government officials. It is important for citizens to be able to express themselves, but to an extent. For example, each citizen should follow the law when considering protests.
Of course not. What we did was extreme, and we did pay for it. But the message should stay the same. The civil rights movement is a great example of government actions trying to suppress voices.
Yes, but they were denied basic human rights, while you fought for sovereignty and administered terrorist attacks.
Well, I believe that the choice for sovereignty is a human right. The last referendum occurred in 1995, where 50.48% voted no. That 0.48% shows how easy it is to silence nearly half of the Quebec population.
A fair point. However, afterwards, the federal government did take steps towards fixing the issue. Chrétien created a special cabinet committee to formulate a new constitutional proposal, where more power was shared among the provinces, and Quebec was given a special characterization as a distinct society.
Empty actions. The government will try their best to pander to our citizens, but we know who runs the country. In 2009, a poll by Angus Reid indicated that 79% of Quebecers desired to achieve more autonomy. When will we be given our opportunity to blossom as a separate nation? Since the inception of Quebec, the Anglophones have marginalized us. Look at the War Measures Act, for example. They bent the law to silence us. The wording of the act is ambiguous and should be re-examined, and it was passed in 1914, for Christ's sake.
Well, I believe that the ends justify the means. Quebec was in crisis mode after what the FLQ did. Your group detonated over 95 bombs. The FLQ stirred the population into a riot mentality.
And for good reason. We needed to be heard. That was a breach of human rights. In World War I, it unjustly imprisoned Canadians of German, Ukrainian, and Slavic descent. Similarly, in World War II, it led to the horrific Japanese internment camps. Look at the Philippines. Due to martial law, in a span of 9 months, there were 2,500 killings by police and 3,600 by vigilantes in a drug war.
Obviously, there are issues in these types of laws that we need to work out. And I want to thank you for your perspective today, Jacques. Until next time, this is CBC Specialist Nicole Carson.